Good morning. At the outset, I wish to thank the organizers for inviting me to share with you my experiences, particularly over the last 15 months. Innovations and startups in digital health has taken a totally new meaning with the onset of COVID-19. In the next 15 minutes or so, we will try to show how digital health solutions can enhance accessibility and implementation of quality medical care, optimize costs, improves health outcomes, benefiting all stakeholders across health, insurance, and pharma sectors. Quality health care should be affordable, accessible to anyone, anytime, anywhere. For this, collaboration is required between the public and the private sector, the government, healthcare providers, insurers, and beneficiaries. In fact, all players in an expanding ecosystem. The world has turned upside down in the last 1 year. Digital healthcare is going to be the new norm. And I foresee that even in my lifetime, brick and mortar hospitals are going to be less and less. I used to call patients and doctors. Today we use the term healthcare provider and beneficiaries. The strategy to be adopted in digital health is considerable, and one needs to be very sure of this. Today, we are outsourcing laboratories, ICUs are being shared, teleradiology has already come into existence in India, remote clinician, chronic care, home monitoring, all this is going to be a part of our life. In the next couple of minutes, I'm going to share with you my personal experience of having been on several committees of the Department of Biotechnology, Government of India, particularly BIRAC, Bioindustry Research Assistant Council. This, I hope, will be useful to most of the attendees who I understand are startups, brilliant, smart, young technologists who are going to make a future so far as digital healthcare is concerned. BIRAC personally has evaluated about 5,000 proposals, of which at least 10% I would have evaluated in the last couple of years. We have supported more than 800 beneficiaries, including the academia, and more than 640 crores have been disturbed. There is a long way to go from conceptualization, from the laboratory to the market when it is actually used. Obviously, the success rate is not 100%, but we need to understand very clearly what are the key strategies which drive the development of a product. First of all, you need to identify the product. The product obviously has to be funded, supported, clinical trials, and the evaluation. Today, the emphasis is more on diagnostics, vaccines, novel therapeutics, particularly everyone looking at the COVID-19 crisis. It is very reassuring for the funders like BIRAC to see that over the last couple of years, scores of projects have come through this rigorous startup mechanisms and have actually introduced into the market. We are no longer talking of make in India, we are talking of make in India for the world. I've always been saying for many years that India should not attempt to achieve world class. The world should attempt to achieve India class, and I'm sure this is going to happen. Now, let me tell my young entrepreneurs who are listening to this talk, what is it that somebody sitting on the other side of the table, like me, is looking for? We are looking for not necessarily novelty, but primarily we want to know what is the evaluation of the innovation which would bring to the healthcare community. The potential to translate your ideas into a differentiated product with, of course, a healthy IRR. A clear proof of concept would be required. Intellectual property, patent landscaping, this is something which many entrepreneurs do not pay enough importance to. Understanding of developmental risks and regulatory complexities. These need to be looked into even when you're conceptualizing an idea, not after the product is made. And of course, the ability to jointly work in scaling up manufacturing, setting up manufacturing, and quality processes. I am a hardcore clinician trained in the BC era. BC doesn't refer to before COVID, it refers to before computers. And I am very concerned that the projects submitted for funding today, many of them are developing solutions which later on search for a problem. Please, please, please involve a clinician even at the stage of conceptualization. We need evidence that the product you make will ultimately better existing clinical outcomes. What is a successful way to go to the market? Collaboratively develop specifications with clearly articulated expectations on the deliverable products. Be ultra focused. Define a problem. What is the researchable problem? At the end of the day, is your product going to really make a change in the healthcare outcome? Do not make a product and then go in terms searching for a solution. Intellectual property, I've already mentioned this, manufacturing infrastructure, regulatory certifications. These keep changing periodically, and you need to be very sure of what are the regulatory certifications required. The key driving factors which drive the Indian medical device industry today, 2021, of course, as I'm talking, some of these things mentioned in the slide may not be applicable. Unfortunately, the COVID and particularly COVID-2 has totally altered the economic landscape of the country. But I am an optimist. I'm sure that within a year or so from now, we will bounce back. India is a resilient country. We are not going to take things lying down, and this COVID infection is actually going to bring out the best among every one of us. High volume demand, epidemiological transaction, and medical parts, medical devices, zones, etc. The aging population ensures that a lot of digital products for senior citizens will have a market. The Indian medical device innovation ecosystem is fast evolving with academic research, venture capital firms, government funding, and promising startups which are developing. Let's spend a minute or two on AI. Is AI disrupting the Indian healthcare industry? As a clinician, as a neurosurgeon with 45 years of experience, I would like to unequivocally state that AI is here to stay. It is not a question of if, it is a question of when and how. Reimagining the possible in the entire healthcare ecosystem with emerging technologies. Google is already collaborating with many hospitals in India, and diabetic retinopathy for some. I am aware of clinical trials going on in India for diabetic retinopathy. The Apollo Hospital Group, one of the largest groups in India, with which I am actively associated with, we have already signed several MOUs where artificial intelligence is now being clinically used. And of course, as a BIRAC committee member, I have evaluated scores of applications using AI in diagnosing COVID infection, not only in chest X-ray, CT scans of the lung, and so on and so forth. What is the final take-home message? The final take-home message is that artificial intelligence will aid a doctor. A good doctor will become an outstanding doctor with AI, but a mediocre doctor will not be able to use AI at all. All India Institute of Medical Science and several other institutions today have already started clinical trials, actually, particularly in Kerala, and it is so reassuring that drones and robots are 100% indigenously made. Some of the photographs at the bottom of the panel show how, for a public address system to intimate the existence of lockdown and so on, drones are being used. And I'm sure in my lifetime, I will be seeing 100% indigenous robots. I would like to spend a minute or two talking about this particular product. I think this illustrates innovation at its best. Wing Commander Lavanyan, an aviation medical specialist, has spent years on this, and today we have a telemedicine-enabled ambu pod, what he calls a three-wheeler, which can even go into the remotest dusty roads of rural India, totally telemedicine-enabled. This is what we want. We cannot just we cannot import these products from the West, but we need to actually export it. What is the future of telemedicine? I am convinced that telemedicine will not stand alone. It will no longer be an independent product. It will be fully integrated in the component of digital health. And who is going to drive this? The government of India. The National Digital Health Mission over the next few years is going to enable every single citizen of this country universal health coverage. Like your Aadhaar card, you will have a unique ID card for healthcare. And what is amazing about this is, irrespective of whether it's a private hospital or a public hospital, tier 2, tier 3, metro, town, whatever it is, ultimately you will be able to access your medical record from anywhere in the world. Of course, the government will ensure that there is adequate privacy and security. Ayushman Bharat has already announced 150,000 telemedicine-enabled wellness centers. This is going to be a game changer. I understand that several thousands of them have already started. So I think that young men and women, the boys and girls who are taking part in this grand challenge, you are the future. You will be developing IoT. IoT will be replaced by Internet of Medical Things. Billions of low bitrate and low energy connected health monitoring devices, remote sensors, clinical variables, and 5G becoming a reality in the next 2 or 3 years will be the backbone infrastructure for IoT. A healthcare provider using AI will efficiently analyze data from remote areas in almost real time, improving diagnostics and treatment. In silico medicine has already started in India, the testing of drugs on virtual organs, and it will predict how a real person is likely to respond to different types of therapy. Replacing clinical trials with simulations could make clinical trials faster and safer. Spatial computing, quantum computing, these are not just words you pick up from the internet, but these are what are going to be available in this country. Genomic analysis, the cost of genomic analysis has exponentially reduced, and today there are at least 20 centers in India which are able to unravel the entire genome. For what was costing thousands and thousands of dollars, today the costs have come to tens of thousands of rupees, and I'm sure even this will be available. Now, regulatory and legal concerns in the deployment of AI. The law can never ever keep up with technology all over the world. Compliance and adherence to ever-changing future regulatory requirements are very critical. Regulators have realized that there is a shift from hardware to software, with algorithms today acting as a medical device. In fact, the FDA in 2019 started a new digital health division, and this has designed new regulatory standards for AI-based technologies. The International Medical Device Regulators Forum defines software as a medical service used for medical purposes without being part of a hardware medical device. It is reassuring that the government of India has already started setting up many committees like this. Before concluding, I would like to put you on a time machine and take you with me on a journey which every one of you are certainly going to participate in. Most of us are afraid of the future. We cling desperately to the present, not realizing that we have already become the past. This is an interview with 800 technology executives and experts from all over the world, a paper presented at the World Economic Forum, and therefore we should be reassured of its authenticity. Just look at what you're seeing on the slide. 10% of people, okay, no doubt this probably refers to the middle class, the upper middle class, to the developed countries of the world, but nonetheless, 10% of people wearing clothes connected to the internet. And when does the World Economic Forum predict this to happen? In just 5 years from now. 5% of consumer products will be printed in 3D. 90% of the population will have regular access to the internet, and most of them mobile. Highways are going to be developed exclusively for autonomous cars, driverless cars. 10% of all cars on US road could be autonomous. 50% of internet traffic will be to homes for appliances and devices. And the first AI machine on a corporate board of directors. This photograph was sent to me through an email communication 48 hours ago. Now I'm very confident that in my lifetime, I will see a human being walking on Mars. This is just incredible. Can you imagine an Indian who's heading the team in NASA was able to remotely set fire literally to a helicopter from Inquisitor, and this helicopter went a few hundred feet above Martian atmosphere, took photographs and sent it back to you. This is what technology is doing today. The sky is no longer the limit. Space is no longer the limit. We have already started looking at Mars. The future of healthcare industry will be Alphabet, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, and Tesla. No, I'm not making a mistake. These are the companies which are going to invest very heavily in healthcare. In the first 7 months of 2020, when the world was in a slump down, 2 trillion was generated in market value thanks to COVID. Again, as NASA said, we will send humans to the moon once again after 54 years, but this time they will stay. And we are talking of AI, which generates poetry, prose, humor, essays, fictional interviews, and stories. I would like to conclude that whatever I said is not science fiction. Just a week ago, we published a paper in one of the leading journals of the world where we showed that 1 million teleconsultations, digital healthcare in public-private partnership mode, 183 urban primary health centers. We analyzed our learnings over the last 4 years, and this has been published, and this is the real world. And again, on the right-hand side, you see a chapter which I've recently written in a textbook on technology-enabled remote healthcare, a story from India, a 33-page chapter where we have demonstrated that the poorest of the poor, those below the pyramid, are having access to quality healthcare. The words affordable, accessible, 24/7, anyone, anytime, anywhere are not just a cliche. These are actually being practiced by us. I could go on and on, but I do realize I've exceeded the time. So what is my take-home message? My take-home message is the 10 commandments. Thou shalt digitally transform. Commandment number 1. Commandment number 2. Thou shalt digitally transform, and so on and so forth. You can ignore reality, but you cannot ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. So ladies and gentlemen, let us be future ready. Let us plan for 2030, 2035. And remember that the world should talk about achieving India class. It is grand challenges like this which make a difference. And I'd once again like to thank the organizers for inviting me to give this keynote address. Thank you.